So, we've made it to season 2, and the next episode of Star Trek The Next Generation is called The Child. This is... Okay. So the Enterprise is driving along, and a twinkly star comes into the ship and sort of flies around the ship a little bit. No one really notices it. Counselor Troi is sleeping in her bed, and the twinkly star very creepily moves up her sheets and into her feminine area, and she sits up in bed this is if you're gonna keep count of how many times Counselor Troi gets violated throughout the series, this is number 1. So anyway, Picard's on the bridge, and he's like, Dr. Crusher has left the ship. She's gone to become head of Starfleet Medical, and Picard's like, well, better go meet the new doctor, and the doctor is not at work. She's not in sickbay. He's getting kind of angry because she's supposed to be in sickbay. So he's like, grr, the doctor has found the new set, which is 10 forward, where it's like a bar, and Whoopi Goldberg works there. And he's like, well, this is great. We've really made it. We're in season 2. We have more sets. It's awesome. He goes, but he's actually not saying it's awesome. He's he's angry. Dr. Pulaski's in 10 forward instead of sickbay. Grrr. So he goes down to 10 forward. He's like, Doctor, I don't know what they did on your last ship, but this is my... He starts to lecture, and he's like, oh, happened, great. Sit down. Have a seat. You got to hear this here, because I don't care about doctor-patient confidentiality at all. I was having a private conversation with Troi. We weren't even in sickbay. Whatever. So the next thing, they have a group meeting in the conference room about Counselor Troi's personal medical history. And they're like, Dr. Pulaski says that Counselor Troi is pregnant, and she has the fetus cam on her screen, and she's like, this is the fetus, but at the beginning, this fetus is growing so fast that she's probably gonna have a baby by the end of the day, and usually you have a very long development, normal, a little bit. I think they said 10 months. I don't know, because she's not human. She's half Betazoid, right? So they're like, okay. And Riker's like, who's the father? Because he knows it's not him, and he's super jealous. She's like, well, I was raped by a twinkly star last night. He's like, okay. And the baby is not an alien. It's half Betazoid, half human. Well, it's an alien because it's Betazoid, but it's not half twinkly star. It's exactly like Troi, except for it's a boy. Okay, so they chat about maybe Troi should have an abortion. Worf is definitely in favor of abortions, because he's like, this looks like a dangerous thing, and Troy's like, actually no, I'm just gonna have this baby. And that was the end of the discussion, because everybody's pro-choice. It's the woman's decision. Done. Why are we having this conference at all? Then, a day later, Counselor Troi is the size of a house, and she's like waddling around, and she's on the way to sick bay in the hallway, but she's like so enormous that she's having a little bit of trouble, and so Data sees her in the hallway. It's like, oh, and she's like, Data, can you help me get to sick bay? And he's like, okay. And he helps her to get to sick bay. And Dr. Pulaski is there, and she's like, hey, I'm going to have a baby right now. And she's like, yes, you are. And so they're like, and she's like, usually the father is here to like support you, but obviously that's not happening because your father is a deadbeat twinkle star. And she's like, yeah, and Data's like, oh, I could help. And because it's like humanity, right? So Counselor Troi says, Dr. Pulaski says, no, she needs a human, not a cold android. I think this is the beginning of why people don't like Dr. Pulaski. I actually kind of like her, but, you know, she's a little bit prejudiced against Data. But Troy's like, no, Data will be fine. And so Data holds Troy's hand. Worf brings in a team of security officers, and Riker comes in while the birth is going on. You can see he kind of wanted to be the guy who held Troy's hand, but it gets to be Data. So she's having a baby the normal way, you know, and a baby comes out, and Dr. Pulaski's like, relax, Worf, and your guys, down, boy, it's just a baby. And Data's like, that was wonderful. Thank you for letting me participate. Data just loves being a slightly human, doing human things. So, they have the baby. Dr. Pulaski, while the birth is going on, is like, oh, do you want something for the pain? And she's like, I haven't felt any pain, even though, like, you know, my vagina is stretched out to here. It's just like magic. No pain, because, you know, maybe the Twinkle Star felt bad about raping her the night before and now just wants to get rid of her labor pains. I don't know. So, the next thing is, I believe I don't know what happens after that, between this and that. Oh, Picard goes to see the baby, you know, to pay his respects. So he goes to see the baby, and he's still kind of worried that this is like an invading alien and not actually a baby. So he comes to see the baby, and the baby is like 4 years old now. And Troi is like, say hello to Captain Picard. And he's like, he can talk? Like, he's a day old, right? But he's 4. And Dr. Pulaski scans him, and he's like, and he's like, how old is he? And Dr. Pulaski's like, well, he's a day old, but he looks like he's 4. Which is pretty obvious to everyone. And then, yeah. Oh, I don't know what happens in that scene. That's the end of that scene. I don't know. Oh, there's like a thing where Wesley's still on board, even though his mom has gone away, and he is trying to decide whether or not he's going to go be with his mom or stay on the Enterprise. He wants to stay on the Enterprise. Then the child the actor switches again, and he's an 8-year-old, and he goes to school, and there are puppies, and there's just sweet puppies. They're like golden retriever puppies, I think, and when Counselor Troi picks him up at the end of the day, because it's like daycare, she's the daycare lady is like, wow, I think he's even grown since you dropped him off. And when they they go home, they're gonna have some soup for dinner or lunch, whatever meal it is, and Captain Picard comes to visit again because he's like doesn't usually visit kids that often. He doesn't even like kids, but he's very like worried that this is a sketchy alien. Okay, and I think Dr. Pulaski comes again. Yeah, it's like they're a team now. Picard and Dr. Pulaski coming to visit kids on the Enterprise. The child is like, he has like some soup and he puts his finger right in the soup and he's like, ow, 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 mom, I burned my finger. And Dr. Pulaski comes and puts like waves a magic medical wand on it and it heals and she's like, is that better, sweetheart? Not Pulaski. Troi says that. He's like, yeah. And Picard, like, on the download to Pulaski is like, he deliberately burned himself. Yeah, like, for the experience. Or, it's like a conversation. And then he starts asking Picard starts asking some really intrusive questions to the kid, who's only 8, and he's like, or 2 days, depending on how you look at it. He's like, who are you? Where did you come from? He's like, because mommy said it was time to eat. Like, why are you here? Like, I wanted to eat soup. I'm here to eat the soup. And Picard's like, no. I mean, on the ship. And he's like, I live here. It's my home. And Picard's like, children. And Counselor Troi says, sweetie, Ian. His name is Ian. He is named after Troy's father. She says, Ian, Picard is asking if you're ready to tell us why you came. And he's like, no, not yet. Oh, there is like a B plot where they're transporting some very important samples. There's a guy with a mustache, and he's got like a big hexagon thing full of samples in it, and they're going to transport them somewhere. And I think they're very dangerous, so they have to put them in a special thing. And they're like, no problem, as long as you don't expose them to this like super rare radiation that is like pretty well nowhere, you'll be fine. And then of course the next thing is there's like that radiation that's super rare and is found nowhere. There's some kind of source of it on the ship, and then one of the samples starts growing, and the guy with the mustache is like, oh my god, it's gonna break through all the containers and it's gonna break through this big thing. And Geordi's like, it can't break through this, and he's like, yes it will. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's going to destroy the ship, everyone's going to die, right? And they're like, wow, that escalated quickly. And so Ian, still the same 8-year-old actor, is lying in bed and he's like, Mom, I have got to go now. And he's like, what do you mean you have to go? And he's like, I got to go and die, because otherwise the whole ship will explode. And she's like, no, you can't die. And she calls the doctor on her communicator, and the doctor comes, and Picard comes, and I think Riker comes, because like there's nothing going on the ship right now. Oh, Data comes too. Just everybody comes to help this kid. He's like, please save him. And she's like, and Pulaski's like, did he eat something? Did he fall down? What happened? And she's like, no, nothing happened like that. It just said he was going to die, and I think he's about to die. So he's like, Pulaski is like, yep, he's dead. And then he turns into a twinkle star, like his body turns into a twinkle. Oh, the Data scans him and is like, that is where the radiation is coming from. This kid. And Troy's like, yeah, he said that it was he caused the whole disaster thing. So the kid turns back into a twinkly star, and he's like in Troy's little hands, and they're like having a little conversation, but in their heads, so no one else can hear. And she smiles at the little twinkly star, and off he goes out the window. Bye bye. And he's like, and Troi says, well, he passed us in space and was interested in understanding us. So how he's going to do that is he's going to be born and live as one of us and then understand us. And Picard's like, but you were smiling. She's like, he said thank you. And I told him I'd miss him, and I will miss him. Boo-hoo-hoo. I'll be over at this next episode, don't worry. And that is the end. Oh, and Wesley decides to stay on board the Enterprise. Obviously. And that is the end of The Child. Bye!